Hi, thank you for joining me. I am Sergio and today we will tell you about state management in Flutter. Design pattern to create extendable applications with a small codebase. I use an official example from Flutter documentation. Now that you know about declarative UI programming and the difference between ephemeral and app state, you are ready to learn about simple app state management. The provider package is easy to understand and it doesn't use much code. It also uses concepts that are applicable in every other approach. For illustration, consider the following simple app. The app has two separate screens, a catalog and a cart. It could be a job posting app, but you can imagine the same structure in a simple social networking app or catalog. The catalog screen includes a custom app bar and a scrolling view of many list items. Here's the app visualized as a widget tree. So we have at least 5 subclasses of widget. Many of them need access to a state that belongs elsewhere. This takes us to our first question: where should we put the current state of the cart? It's hard to imperatively change a widget from outside by calling a method on it. And even if you could make this work, you would be fighting the framework instead of letting it help you. You would need to take into consideration the current state of the UI and apply the new data to it. It's hard to avoid bugs this way. In Flutter, you construct a new widget every time its contents change. Whenever it changes, it rebuilds my cart from above. This is what we mean when we say that widgets are immutable. They don't change, they get replaced. ChangeNotifier Provider. ChangeNotifier Provider is the widget that provides an instance of a change notifier to its descendants. We already know where to put ChangeNotifier Provider, above the widgets that need to access it. In the case of cart model, that means somewhere above both my cart and my catalog. You don't want to place ChangeNotifier Provider higher than necessary, because you don't want to pollute the scope. But in our case, the only widget that is on top of both my cart and my catalog is my app. Note that we're defining a builder that creates a new instance of cart model. ChangeNotifier Provider is smart enough not to rebuild cart model unless absolutely necessary. It also automatically calls dispose on cart model when the instance is no longer needed. If you want to provide more than one class, you can use multi-provider. Consumer. Now that cart model is provided to widgets in our app through the ChangeNotifier Provider declaration at the top, we can start using it. The only required argument of the consumer widget is the builder. Builder is a function that is called whenever the change notifier changes. It is best practice to put your consumer widgets as deep in the tree as possible. You don't want to rebuild large portions of the UI just because some detail somewhere changed. Provider.of. Sometimes, you don't really need the data in the model to change the UI, but you still need to access it. For example, a clear cart button wants to allow the user to remove everything from the cart. It doesn't need to display the contents of the cart, it just needs to call the clear method. We'd be asking the framework to rebuild a widget that doesn't need to be rebuilt. For this use case, we can use Provider.of, with the listen parameter set to false. Using the above line in a build method won't cause this widget to rebuild when notifyListeners is called. You can check out the example covered in this article. See link in description. If you want something simpler, see what the simple counter app looks like when built with Provider. By following along with these articles, you've greatly improved your ability to create state-based applications. Try building an application with Provider yourself to master these skills. Flutter provides a lot of flexibility in deciding how to organize and architect your apps. While this freedom is very valuable, it can also lead to apps with large classes, inconsistent naming schemes, as well as mismatching or missing architectures. These types of issues can make testing, maintaining, and extending your apps difficult. The Flutter Architecture Samples project demonstrates strategies to help solve or avoid these common problems. This project implements the same Todos app using different architectural concepts and tools. You can use the samples in this project as a learning reference or as a starting point for creating your own apps. The focus of this project is on demonstrating how to structure your code, design your architecture, and the eventual impact of adopting these patterns on testing and maintaining your app. You can use the techniques demonstrated here in many different ways to build apps. Your own particular priorities will impact how you implement the concepts in these projects, so you should not consider these samples to be canonical examples. To ensure the focus is kept on the aims described above, the app uses a simple UI. What do you think about? Please comment something below. If you want more like this, hit subscribe.